Hello, everyone, and welcome to ROG Pulse at a special earlier time slot as we have a brand new product reveal. We don't get to reveal that much stuff on Pulse, but here we are today with the new Z890 motherboards.
Yes. The second series of Intel Core Ultra processors is here, and we have a big selection of Z890 motherboards to go with them. Now, just to start out, guys, I don't know how many of your questions I'm going to be able to answer today or how in depth we're going to be able to get. This is just our first look at these boards, but if you want to dive deeper into the new motherboards, I highly recommend you go follow our colleagues at the ASUS North America YouTube channel. JJ over there does live streams, and he will almost certainly be getting hands-on with these boards, answering questions in the near future. In the meantime, we are here to reveal the lineup and give you a small taste of what's coming. So, to start, this new chipset comes with a new socket, LGA 1851, along with support for the latest CPUs. But we've got a number of new ASUS exclusive features on our own Z890 motherboards to make the most of all your components. So let's dive in and start talking about some of those features, and then we'll show off the new boards. I'll try to get through this quick because I know you guys want to see the new boards. Here's a
I've
little
already
taste
given
for
him a
you.
sneak peek because I wanted to look at them myself.
I know they look sick. So, of course, if you're familiar with Asus motherboards, you probably know a lot of these features already. For example, we've got AI overclocking on these new ROG boards, giving you a one-click way to boost your CPU clocks and get better performance, all tuned for your specific CPU, for your CPU cooler, and the operating environment of your specific machine, right? So it's going to kind of analyze all that stuff and create the ideal clocks for you. Now, since these new Intel chips feature integrated NPUs, we also have a new feature on our motherboards called NPU Boost that overclocks the NPU for up to 24% faster performance in AI-powered apps. So if you're doing any AI-accelerated stuff, you're definitely going to want to turn that on as well. That's a pretty nice little boost there. 24% is nothing to
Yeah,
sneeze
for
at.
sure.
And of course, like we discussed on our last motherboard episode of ROG Pulse, we have AI Networking 2, which has some new features like a traffic monitor that tracks your current Wi-Fi channel usage and makes it easy to switch to a less congested one if there are other devices sucking up your signal. So yeah, all those new kind of automation features are available on these boards as well. So, one of the more exciting things in this generation of ROG boards is something called NitroPath DRAM technology. So, this is actually a hardware feature. On boards with NitroPath, you'll get slots with better retention force and shorter gold finger pins, and they have optimized signal pathways on the motherboard to reduce noise interference between your CPU and RAM. So again, we talked about this last week with our other new motherboards, but for Z890, this is actually bolstered by a few other features as well. So Z890 supports a new type of memory called clock unbuffered DIMM or CUDIMM. If you have this type of RAM, the RAM contains an integrated clock driver on the actual stick itself to improve reliability and stability at higher RAM speeds.
So cool.
So when you combine this with our new AEMP3 profiles on the BIOS of these boards, you can achieve some really crazy speeds with really, really solid stability. Even like DDR5 8000 and higher. It can get pretty nuts if you really know what you're doing. Of course, if you don't have a new CUDIMM stick of RAM, you can use our regular AEMP2 profiles. Those will optimize your memory configuration, even if you're mixing kits or if you're using a PMIC restricted kit that doesn't include an XMP or Expo profile. You can use AEMP to kind of optimize everything. Now, you see this new screenshot here. Finally, on the RAM side, we have a new BIOS feature that we call DIMM Fit. This feature analyzes your individual memory modules to try and pinpoint potential issues when overclocking to help you optimize performance, compatibility, stability, things like that, right? So memory testing takes time. And if you're doing serious overclocking, you can't necessarily get away from that. But if you're getting really close to finding that ideal tuning, yeah, here you can use DIMFit to kind of run a test and get you that last mile of the way, right? That extra bump in stability you need once you're close to that sweet spot. All of these memory features, DIMFit, NitroPath, DRAM, AEMP, all work together for some seriously impressive RAM speeds on Z890. You will find these features on some, but not all of our Z890 motherboards. We'll talk a little bit about which ones in a bit. There's also a link in the video description that will give you the full spec sheets for all of these motherboards and the features they have and the IO and stuff like that. So definitely check that out. Now, on the other end of the storage spectrum, we have a new feature that enhances our M.2 slots for your SSD storage. We know a lot of you guys like to really fill up the M.2 slots on your boards so you can have loads of storage for all your games. I don't know about you, Jake. I regularly reach the limit on my drive. I probably need to throw some extra drives in here.
I was just like thinking today I should have bought something on the Amazon sale yesterday because I need another 2 terabytes or so.
Ooh. You know what? That's okay. Black Friday's coming.
That's true.
I also, you know what? I actually have an extra SSD lying around from my Ally that I could use.
Ooh,
anyway,
yeah.
the point, and actually we'll talk about that in a moment. Not the Ally, but small SSDs on these boards. The challenge with filling up these boards with a bunch of M.2 drives, right, is that even if you have enough PCIe lanes for a bunch of M.2 slots, many motherboards aren't able to deliver enough power to all of those slots to get their like full maximum speed at all times, right? Because they're limited to just that 3-volt rail on the motherboard. And if you have a bunch of drives plugged in, and you don't have enough power, some of those drives may not run at their full speeds. So 2 of our Z890 motherboards come with a new feature that we call ROG M.2 Power Boost. This is really cool. It intelligently converts the 12-volt rail to 3 volts so that it can deliver more power to the motherboard to spread across your drives and make sure that they're all operating at peak performance. So you don't need a special power supply for this or anything like that. It's just that the motherboard is able to use that 12-volt rail to send 3 volts to the drives. Super cool. Great feature to have if you're one of those people that just like loads up all the M.2 slots with super fast drives and you want them all operating like at peak performance. Looking to connectivity, Z890 is the first time that Thunderbolt 5 will be available on desktop motherboards. So this supports up to 80 gigabits per second of bidirectional bandwidth and up to 120 gigabits per second with bandwidth boost for displays. So
oh my goodness,
through one connection, you could use up to 3 8K displays at 60 hertz with DSC. 3 8K displays, folks, through, and it's compatible with USB 4 to Thunderbolt 5, so you can connect literally like anything you want to Thunderbolt 5, right? Really cool. If you are looking at one of our motherboards that doesn't have Thunderbolt 5, you can add 2 Thunderbolt 5 ports with our Thunderbolt EX5 add-in card as well. So you have kind of some options there depending on what board you buy. Of course, we also have Wi-Fi 7 on these boards, which brings faster connectivity thanks to a whole host of new technologies. We've talked about Wi-Fi 7 at length. I'm not going to go into detail on all the little things that Wi-Fi 7 adds, but suffice to say, if you have a compatible Wi-Fi 7 router, like one of our ROG Rapture models, you are in for a treat when it comes to online multiplayer.
Yeah, the need for Ethernet is dwindling. It's kind of great.
Yeah. We got some sick Ethernet on these boards too, if you have if you already have that wired slot, but with Wi-Fi 7, yeah, it's going to be really sick. Okay, so finally, our family of PC DIY features has been enhanced on these boards in a few different ways. We showed these off recently as well, but just to reiterate, our new BIOS interface, first of all, is now full 1080p resolution, and contains our new Q dashboard feature. So that gives you a diagram of the motherboard with like all the different slots and stuff on it, and you can just like click on one of the things, like click on the SATA port, and it'll take you to the related storage options in the BIOS, right? So if you're a new builder, that's really cool because you might not know what all the BIOS features are named or like where to find them in the menus. You can just pull up the diagram of your motherboard and be like, I want to tweak this thing, and it'll take you there.
The
really
BIOS
cool. In 1080p.
Evolution is well overdue, so that is definitely nice.
Dude, I still remember when BIOS was just like a blue screen with like plain text on it. Like that was my first,
you and me both.
Intel motherboard back in the, what was it, I don't remember. It was like an i7 930 was my CPU. So yeah, BIOS has come a long way. Our new PCIe slot Q release slim mechanism, which is what you're seeing right over here. You know, those of you who've been building for a while know that to release a GPU from its slot, there's a little like latch at the end of the GPU slot. And when you have a big GPU, you got to get like a stick, like a chopstick or something, and like try to get it. So a couple generations ago, we introduced a button a Q release button that's like in a different spot on the motherboard. You just press the button and it releases it. That was really cool.
Yep.
This is even cooler because now there's no button.
You just
What up?
tilt,
You just grab it,
tilt and pull.
tilt it, tilt and pull. Really, really cool. The future. Our new Q slide mechanism. So speaking of that little Ally SSD I have, instead of having to worry about whether your motherboard has screw holes in the right spots or whatever, or just dealing with those little M.2 screws in general, which are like the bane of my existence, we now have this Q slide mechanism. So you can stick in any size drive you want, and then you just slide that down to like retain it in place. Really nice. And for M.2 heat sinks, I believe we have a quick release mechanism for that as well.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make things easier. Fewer screws, fewer things lost. It's a good time to be a PC builder.
We've all dropped screws into the depths of our case or our PSU or God knows where. And, the less you have to deal with those when just swapping out components, the better.
Yes. Yeah, especially if you're like us and you upgrade often. Or just like to get in there and tinker.
Clean,
so,
whatever.
I know you all want to see the new motherboards. Let's go through. We've given you a few tastes here. This is actually a last gen, but let's go through the Z890 lineup, starting with the tip of the top, the ROG Maximus Z890 Extreme. So Maximus is our top-end motherboard family for Intel builds, both in terms of features and construction. This
time I have in my PC right now.
Oh, fancy man. You have the Hero, right?
Yes, I do actually.
We're going to talk about that one in a little bit. So we have 3 Maximus boards. The Extreme is like the flagship of flagship models, right? It's got everything. 8-layer PCB, 2-ounce copper layers for better signal integrity, right? 24 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2 power stages for rock solid voltage regulation. You've got a ton of fan headers. You even have 3D vapor chamber tech to keep surface mounting components and SSDs cool. This is like an absolute beast of the board. Everything to the nines. If that's you, this is the board. So obviously this one is going to come with all of the bells and whistles that we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
This has got the NitroPath DRAM slots. It has 4 M.2 slots on board, 3 of which are PCIe 5.0. It has 2 PCIe 5.0 X16 slots for graphics cards or other add-in cards. It has dual Thunderbolt 5 ports on the back, lots of fast USB ports, a 2.5 gig Ethernet port, and a 10 gig Ethernet port for those of you that are diehard, super fast Ethernet people. But it also has Wi-Fi 7 if you're using Wi-Fi. It has it all. Also comes with a Supreme FX 7.1 surround sound audio solution. It has like integrated amplifiers and op amps. Like if you want, it's interface shielding on there, right? Like all the stuff you'd hope for in a high-end onboard audio solution. So you don't need to grab like an external DAC or something like that because the onboard audio on this is really nice. And it looks freaking badass, right?
It's got
clean. Like that mirrored finish on the chipset heatsink down there, which like you kind of have to see in person for it to really like kind of shine. And then the IO shroud there, that's actually a 5-inch LCD panel. Okay. So you can display custom animations. You can put real-time hardware information up there, like your CPU temps or whatever, right? Like other customizable options. You can see the full spec table for this and all the other boards we're talking about today, again, at the link in the description. So I'm not going to list every single USB port it has, but if you click that link, you'll be able to see it all in a nice table.
And yes, Twitch chat, we know that link is only on YouTube. You guys like to say link where? Yeah, you got to.
Oh, I can pop it in Twitch chat for you guys. I'm sorry. I love you, Twitch. Here's your link for being good. All right, let's talk about the ROG Maximus Z890 Apex next. This is our board for overclocking enthusiasts, hardcore overclocking enthusiasts, I should say. All of our boards feature plentiful overclocking features, right? Some more than others, but like they all have good overclocking stuff on them. Our Apex boards were designed with like super high octane overclocking or like professional overclocking in mind, right? You'll notice, for example, that it only has 2 DDR5 RAM slots there, and that's by design to ensure the shortest possible traces between both of those slots in the CPU for better overclocking, right? It's got really high-end power delivery and cooling, so you can supply that overclocked CPU with really reliable power. And of course, it's white aesthetic is incredible. Everyone knows white makes your CPU go faster, right? I think that's science.
Perfect for Panda builds.
Yes, and it's not our only white motherboard. We actually have quite a few this round, which is pretty cool. So this is like, if you're a hardcore overclocker, this is the board for you. But if not, we've got some other whiteboards for you as well. Let's check out the ROG Maximus Z890 Hero board. This is the one that I think a lot of people are going to be interested in too. Like Jake and I are both using Hero boards.
Yeah, this is my aesthetic right here, though.
This is like the Maximus line is like our high end line, but the Hero is like the most accessible of that high end line, right?
In
For
terms
the
of
wider,
price,
like,
yeah.
It's for like the kind of really enthusiast audience that doesn't necessarily need like the super top end stuff, but
like that
wants
extra
like
display is not there here on the IO, right?
Yeah. So this is an EATX motherboard, so make sure it fits in your case. But for that extra size, you get a boatload of features, right? You've got massive heat sinks on the VRMs. You've got NitroPath DRAM technology on this for that memory stability. You've got the ROG M.2 power boost to make sure that your storage is getting supplied with ample power for top end speeds. This has a lot of those features we talked about earlier that ensure you get the best performance with less fiddling. On the I/O side, you've got 2 Thunderbolt ports here, plus 9 USB ports, and 5 gigabit Ethernet. Sorry, plus that Supreme FX 7.1 surround sound audio solution that we mentioned earlier. The Polymo Lighting 2, that's what's on that I/O shroud. It's not an LCD screen, but it still looks super killer. It's got like kind of that, holographic effect. And the RGB is also really nice, especially if you want to use AuraSync to create custom lighting effects with all the rest of your gear. The Hero board does not come in white. I'm seeing a question in chat, but just wait. There are a couple other whiteboards coming up in the ROG Strix line. So while the Maximus boards are the top end of what we offer, the Strix is like the next line. And they're still premium boards, right? But a bit more accessible to price point, and they are a little bit more economical is not quite the right word I want to use, but like it's giving you all of the high end stuff that most gamers are going to want without some of like the really hardcore or brand new stuff that would like bump the price up. So if you're thinking like, hey, I don't need like some of this absolute latest tech that's going to like eke out I'm not a professional overclocker, right? But I still want the high-end audio solution, right? I still want AI overclocking. I still want lots of USB ports. Then you're going to find everything you need in our Strix boards. And by the way, if you want to learn more about the difference between Maximus and Strix, and then the difference between the different Strix boards, like the different letters in the Strix board names, I'm putting an article in chat that is a bit more general and kind of helps explain like the family and the stack.
There is logic in our naming, I swear.
Yeah, but I'm going to explain to you each individual board right now as well. So we have 4 Strix boards for this chipset. This one up here is the ROG Strix Z890E gaming Wi-Fi. So as usual, the Dash E board is our highest performance model in the Strix family, with some of those more advanced features that we talked about today, right? Like this does have the NitroPath DRAM tech. It has 7 onboard M.2 slots, 3 of which are wired for PCIe 5.0. So you want a lot of storage? We got a lot of slots.
That's a lot.
It has the ROG M.2 power boost to support that ridiculous amount of M.2 slots. And then it has like the Q latch and Q slide features and stuff like that as well. What I like about this board is that it has a truly insane amount of USB ports. Okay. 12 USB ports on the back, plus 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports. So you are not going to want for connectivity on this. If you are like Jake and you have a million things to plug in,
too many
here
things.
you go.
Too many.
I know.
In fact, I need to upgrade at this point.
I have too many things too. So you've also got 5 gig Ethernet. You've got a high-end audio solution. It's the important stuff that like hardcore gamers and builders are going to want, without some of the stuff that like takes it to the absolute top of the stack. So if you have 100 things to plug, Skull, in chat, I don't have a board for you yet with 100 USB ports, but we're working our way there. 12 is more than 10% of the way there.
Your case will have like 4, so you got like 16 at that point. You're doing all right.
I might recommend some USB hubs, a lot of other stuff. All right. And this is a cool board. I love the like kind of pixel ROG aesthetic on the IO shrouds of these Strix boards.
I'd
They
love to
are
see
really
that in
cool,
action. Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful.
and it's a little bit on the chipset heatsink too.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I love that color. So let's also look at the Strix Z890F gaming Wi-Fi. That's next, and then the Z890A gaming Wi-Fi, which we'll switch to in a sec. But these boards kind of go together. The Dash F and the Dash A are a bit more mainstream than the Dash E. Not quite as many USB ports. These don't have the NitroPath DRAM, but like again, for most gamers, they're going to have everything you need. You've got plenty of M.2, you've got plenty of USB, you've got 2.5 gig Ethernet, you've got the same really cool styling looks here.
Hmm.
The Dash A board is pretty similar, and we'll switch that. Can we switch to that one? But that one comes in white,
Hmm.
right? So here's another one of the white model. Usually the Dash A Strix boards are a white model, and the Dash A is a black board, and they tend to be pretty similar in terms of like features and connectivity and stuff. Again, check out that link for the full spec tables if you want to see what each of these boards have. But yeah, I like the look of both of these. Very, very cool. Finally, as always, I gotta swoon over the mini ITX board for a second because I love small form factor builds. The ROG Strix Z890i gaming Wi-Fi packs quite a bit of functionality into a super compact board, right? It doesn't just have robust VRMs. It's got 2 onboard M.2 slots, right? Ready for PCIe 5.0. It's got Wi-Fi 7. It's got 2.5 gig Ethernet. All those essentials, but packed into a really tiny board. And the stuff that we couldn't fit on the board, we put on the ROG FPS 2 card. So if you switch to the next image, I think there's a picture of it here. Yes, so this little like PCB you see next to the board, that is like you plug that in and it kind of allows us to get more stuff on the board vertically. So it's got like extra SATA ports, easier access to front panel headers, stuff like that. So a clever way of getting more stuff on a board where you're really limited on size. The other thing we've done with that is the ROG Strix Hive 2. So that's that little triangular thing you see up at the top. That also allows us to offload some stuff from the board. So that's an external control interface that includes a high-end audio solution on it, right? So instead of putting that audio solution on the board, you've got it in as kind of like an external DAC with a volume knob and stuff that you can plug in and get easier access to. This is also, I mean, these boards are great for like living room like media
Yeah,
centers
home theater
or
PCs.
gaming
Yeah, yeah.
machines, but you could also just like you could just make a small form factor build and put it on your desk, and it takes up really little amount of space. I think Trent had one of those or has one of those. He's our one of the influencers who sponsor. He lives in a van, and so he's got like a really compact build for his kind of like tiny house van. Perfect use case for something like this. The Strix Hive is cool. It also has a flex key button plus 2 USB ports. The flex key button lets you customize what it does in the BIOS. So you can like change what that button does based on what you need, right? It can be a reset button. It can be an RGB switch. Or if you're doing like some overclocking, undervolting testing on this, like I've undervolted my mini ITX machine to try and keep temperatures and fan noise low. And with that button, you could set it to boot straight into the BIOS so that as you're doing your stability testing, you can just back into the BIOS without having to like mash delete or whatever. Really cool feature that you can kind of play with for whatever it is that you need. So those are all of our ROG boards, but I do want to briefly mention our TUF Gaming boards as well. This is an ROG channel, but obviously there's a lot of crossover between these two audiences because these are still gaming boards, right? So this white beauty is the TUF Gaming Z890 Pro Wi-Fi. I told you we had a lot of whiteboards this time around. 3 whiteboards? I feel like that's a lot for a one chipset release. I feel like usually we have 2 maybe.
Yeah, but I
Maybe
just
I'm
want to say,
wrong.
like, the tough aesthetic in white is so like
Dude, it's
Gundam. It's so
sick.
like mecha. I love it.
It's
I really
so
love
Gundam.
it.
So we had a TUF build, and we have a white TUF case too as well that goes really well with this. And obviously, you've got the white TUF cooler. We had a build at CES last year on display that was an all white, mostly TUF build, but instead of the TUF cooler, it had the white ROG Ryujin with the LCD screen on it, and it had an animation of like a white, Gundam-esque mech like swinging a sword. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to throw away my entire PC and just build this exact thing because yeah, you're right. The white aesthetic looks so sick with the TUF boards. So sick.
It's
Um,
gorgeous.
So this is like the slightly higher end of the two TUF boards. Again, like the TUF boards are the essentials, right? You've got a few PCIe slots, one of which is wired for 5.0, because if you've got one graphics card, that's all you need, right? You've got three M.2 slots, again, one of which is 5.0. So for most gamers, you're going to be covered with this. You've got Wi-Fi 7, you've got 2.5 gig Ethernet, it's got Thunderbolt 4, and it supports our AI cooling 2 and AI networking 2 features as well, which is a nice bonus for TUF boards.
Yeah,
that is an ROG TUF AIO.
Yeah, it's interesting,
actually,
right? Well,
it's
it's
an
ROG
ROG.
fans.
That's an ROG. It might be an ROG AIO with like a TUF Gaming logo, or that might be the LCD with the TUF Gaming logo. That might be our new ROG cooler with an LCD on it. I'm not positive. I'll have to look that up. I don't know them all by sight at the moment.
Right.
I know the white stuff does get in high demand.
It's at least ROG fans on the AI though.
Yeah, it is. So the TUF Gaming Z890 Plus Wi-Fi is the more traditional, like black gray TUF board with a little bit of those like yellow orangish accents. A lot of the same features. That's a TUF AIO cooler. This has a lot of the same features as the other TUF board, but the connectivity is not the exact same on these two boards. So again, you want to check out that link in the description for the full spec list of these and all of our boards, not just the ROG and TUF. So speaking of that link, if you need more reason to check it out, we also have some ProArt and ASUS Prime motherboards launching for Z890 as well. For the purposes of this stream, we just generally focus on the gaming motherboards because it's an ROG channel, but those other boards are really nice too. Love the aesthetic of the ProArt boards. The Prime boards are really cool, and they often have like a white or panda aesthetic, which, Jake, I know you love. Kind of like a little retro futuristic. Lot of really great boards at a lot of different price points. I don't think we've revealed prices yet, but stay tuned.
Correct.
So check out that link. That's where you'll see the full ASUS family of motherboards with spec tables for everything. And like I said, if you want to dive deeper on each of these boards, hang tight. We'll have more info for you soon. But definitely go follow JJ's live streams over at the ASUS North America YouTube channel, as I'm sure he has some more in-depth content coming in the near future for this family of boards. For us, that's going to be it for today. Thanks for joining us for this special morning episode of ROG Pulse, depending on where you are in the world. I just woke up. As usual, we will be back tomorrow streaming some games. Are you doing Silent Hill 2 again?
More Silent Hill. Spooky game.
Yeah.
For spooky month.
If you want to keep up on pricing, availability of these boards, as well as other new product launches and news, you can follow us on social media, as well as join our Discord, rog.gg/join Discord. We'll take you there. That's a great way to kind of stay up to date on a lot of this stuff, and follow us here on the ROG Global YouTube channel, because we are always talking about what products are on shelf, what's on sale, and stuff at our usual 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time for this show. Thanks for watching today, guys. We will see you next time.